Hello students, this is lesson 3, day 3, video 1. Congratulations for making it to day 3, we're almost done. Today we're going to have a short lesson wrapping up polynomials, so we will be done with polynomials halfway through your intercession day today. It's going to be about parabolas and quadratic equations. It's a specific type of polynomial. So this is the worksheet that you should be filling out as we go along today. First things first, parabola, vocabulary. What is a parabola? A parabola is a U-shape, but it's not just any U-shape. It's like the perfect U-shape. You're not going to have any crazy bumps. It's going to be perfectly symmetrical. So your U-shape is going to be very symmetrical, perfect. It could be down or it could be up. This one is down. Do you know why this one is down? Look at the equation. Hopefully you're thinking because of the negative in front of the x squared. And then the y-intercept is 3. The way you could have known that is because of the plus 3 at the end. Now the x-intercepts, we don't know how to quite find that yet. I haven't talked to you about how to find that because this is in standard form. It's not in factored form. Otherwise, if it was in factored form with the parentheses, you'd be able to tell me the x-intercepts right away. But that's a different lesson. So anyway, a parabola is this perfect U shape, and it's associated with quadratic equations. So we're only going to talk about parabolas that come from something that looks like this, something with an x squared in it. Okay, so the degree has to be 2. It can't be 4, 6, 8. It has to be of a degree of 2. And that's what this lesson is all about. So we're going to look at a word problem together, and then you're going to do a couple by yourself to see if you understand it. Here's our first word problem. This is on your worksheet as well. The arc of a window of a home forms a parabola, whose height above the ground in feet can be determined using this function right here. Given this function, you should be able to tell me how wide the window is. And you can also tell me if a statue fits inside of the window. In other words, how high this parabola goes. So those are the two things that we're looking at. How wide is this parabola? Because this window is in the shape of a parabola. How wide is it? And how tall is it? All right. So first of all, you need to recognize that this is a parabola. So here it is. I outlined it in red. And what it's really asking you for is for the x-intercepts. If you could figure out where this parabola crossed the x-axis, because this is the ground, if you could tell me where it touched on the sides, so this x-intercept and this x-intercept, then you will be able to tell me how wide it is. So, how do you find the x-intercepts again? How do you find the x-intercepts of these polynomials? Do you remember from our last lessons? You make the y or the h of x, same difference, same thing. You make that piece equal to 0, and then you solve for x. Hopefully you remember doing this. Let's go ahead and do it with this problem. Okay, so to find the x-intercepts, we're going to make the y, or in this case, the h of x, equal to 0. So there's my 0. Drop everything else. And you're trying to get the x by itself. So you need to get rid of the fraction, the squared, and the plus 20. Do you remember what to get rid of first? You get rid of the one that's furthest away from the x first. That would be the 20. It's the one that's furthest. How do you get rid of a plus 20? What's the opposite of plus 20? Minus 20. Whatever you do to one side, do to the other. Minus 20. Cancel out the positive 20 and the negative 20, and then drop everything. Now you have to get rid of the fraction that's in front of the x squared. The little 2 we'll get rid of last. So how do you get rid of this fraction that's stuck on the x? To get rid of a fraction, you flip it. The fancy word for that is you multiply by the reciprocal. But pretty much what you do is you just flip it. So what you do is you take this 4 and you put it on the bottom, and you take the 45 and you put it on the top. You flip it. If it's a negative, then you bring the negative with it. So if it's positive, you keep it positive. If it's negative, you keep it negative. So that's what you do. You flip it. And whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So I'm going to write this again on the other side. So negative 45 over 4. There it is again. Because it's a fraction, I went ahead and I made the 20 into a fraction also. You can make any number a fraction by putting a 1 on the bottom. Okay. If you do this, you'll see that the fractions on the right cancel each other out. The 4 on top cancels out with the 4 on the bottom. The 45 on top cancels out with the 45 on the bottom. And then a negative and a negative equals a positive. So like the negatives also canceled each other out. So what's left over here? Just the x squared is left. And what happens on this side? Can anything cancel out here? Yes, there's a 4 hidden inside of 20. 4 goes into 20 how many times? 5, right? Because 4 times 5 gives you 20. So the 4's cancel out and the 5 is left. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So then you multiply this 5 times this 45. Feel free to take out a calculator and work that out. What's 5 times 45? What's a negative times a negative? A negative times a negative is a positive. And 5 times 45 is 225. We're almost done. How do you get rid of this little 2? Do you remember from our last lessons? The opposite of square power is square root. So if you take the square root on one side, you need to take the square root on the other side. And from this side, the x squared, an x is going to come out. And on the other side, a 15 is going to come out. But remember, there's two answers, a positive 15 and a negative 15. All right, so let's go ahead and graph both of these, the positive 15 and the negative 15. Both of those are your x-intercepts. So I'm going to go ahead and on this graph paper, I'm going to graph the negative 15. There's my x-intercept, and then the positive 15. There's my other x-intercept. While we're at it, we might as well find the y-intercept also. To find the y-intercept, do you remember what to do? You make the x equal 0 this time, and then you solve for y, or h of x in this case. So I'm going to take this x right here, and I'm going to put a 0 in his spot. All right, there's the 0. Drop everything else. And 0 to the second power, 0 times 0 is just 0. And then that 0 times this fraction, still going to be 0. 0 times anything is 0. So this whole piece just pretty much goes away. And what are you left with? You're left with this plus 20 that's at the end. So h of x equals 20. And I went ahead and I graphed that dot up here. Do you see the U shape now? The U shape is going to be downwards. And we should have known that from the beginning because of this negative x squared. All right, so this is what your graph should look like. Make sure you graph this on your paper. Now that you have this graph, you can answer all of the questions that they asked you. Let's look at the questions again. The first question is, how wide is the window? So from one x-intercept to the other x-intercept, how many boxes are in between here? Let's go back and look. So this x-intercept is at negative 15. So from here to here, it's 15 spaces. And then the other x-intercept was positive 15. So from the middle to the end, that was another 15 boxes. So what's 15 plus 15? Well, that's 30. So how wide is the window? From x-intercept to x-intercept, we count 30 feet. The window is 30 feet wide. The homeowners want to put a 30-foot statue in the window. Will it fit? Let's go back to our picture. Will a 30-foot statue fit? What's the highest that this parabola goes? The highest it goes is 20. So a 30-foot statue would not fit. It's too high. So the answer is no. The highest point is the y-intercept, which is 20 feet. That's pretty much it. Go ahead and try the next couple of problems in Canvas. Try it on your worksheet, and then when you're done, put it in Canvas to see if you got it right. If you did, then move on to the next lesson and the next video. If you need help from a paraprofessional, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.